you can't achieve continuous capital growth in a regional town. It's impossible. And that's what everyone tells us. That's what our friends and family and media say. And this is what other professionals say, is that, you can only achieve capital growth in a capital city, okay? That is a complete myth, and it's absolute BS, okay? So I'm going to show you today of markets that are regional towns, markets that are at the high-end market in Sydney and Melbourne and other states. And I'm going to show you suburbia locations that are around the 800k price range as well, that are close to Melbourne and Sydney and Brisbane, that are close there and have had strong growth, but compare all three different types of categories. Okay, now the best markets in Australia are regional towns. Have always outperformed capital cities. Okay, and it's just not me saying this. Okay, the data does not lie. If you look at some of the best performing the best performing cities, okay, in Australia, some of these places are regional towns that don't have hundreds or if not millions of people living there. They don't have tens of thousands of people living there, but for some reason they've got strong, sustainable capital growth. Okay, and I want to explain this because when you're looking at property, you're looking at it from the fundamentals. People just look at what everyone, or listen, to what everyone else is saying, and just follow the crowd. If you want to follow the crowd, that's fine, but you're going to get the same result as everyone else. If you do what everyone else is not doing, if you do the things that what minority of people are doing that are successful in certain areas of their life or in certain industries, like investing in property, you're going to get their results. So let's have a look at data points, and then I'll kind of elaborate on why these markets are performing well, and I guess how come there isn't strong sustainable growth in some of these cities that are close, some of these suburbs close to the CBD. So I want to jump into first the kind of like, the $1 million plus price brackets close to your CBDs, okay? So we've got Brunswick. Brunswick is in Melbourne, about 6 k's from the CBD. We've got Coogee, it's in Sydney, coastal town, very beautiful location. We've got Ivanhoe, northern east location, very high end affluence area in Melbourne. We've got St. Peter's in Adelaide, and then we've got Surrey Hills in Sydney, okay? All these locations are close to the CBD, within, 10 less than 20 kilometers away from the CBD. Okay, as we can see, the median house prices are quite high, the high end. And for some of us, we probably can't invest in some of these locations, and that's okay. But I want to show you some of the growth rates, the average growth rate in 10 years. And as you can see, Brunswick's at 4.6. We've got Coogee at 6.3. We've got Ivanhoe at 6.3. We've got St. Peter's at 6.7. And then we've got Surrey Hills at 4.5. Now, strong. Now, the average Australian growth rate in Australia is 6.8. Okay, so some of these markets aren't even achieving that. If not, they're just slightly under, but they're not having strong, sustainable capital growth. Now, there's a lot to talk about why. Okay, why these markets aren't sustaining that strong capital growth. Okay, but I'm not going to touch on that. I'm going to touch on just showing you the evidence of understanding that there is strong, sustainable growth in regional towns. Let's go into some other markets that are, I guess, more the affordable end, and I guess for the middle range of property investors that think, we want to get close to a CBD, probably 15 kilometers, 20 kilometers, give or take, okay? And we want to have a look at some of the growth rates. So look at these places here: Campbelltown, Blacktown, Hoppers Plains, Coopers Plains, Thomastown, Wollert, okay? As you can see here, 4.4% in Blacktown, 5.5%, 6.6%, 4.68%, and then 7.58% in these locations here. Okay, these are all close to the CBDs in Melbourne and Sydney, and Brisbane as well. And as you can see, there's very high end market. You can say it's a middle range. Okay, but as you can see, there's not strong sustainable growth consistently that is higher than the Australian average, except for probably Wollert. Now, Wollert is a outer ring suburb. There's a lot of developments going on there, so that's a location that I wanted to put in there and just show you what's happening. Now, let's jump in to some of the some regional towns that are performing quite well, and I wish I could put more on my list here just to show you guys the strong sustainable growth. So we've got Centurion Heights, which is in Toowoomba. Okay. As you can see, a very affordable market, 500k purchase price, 6.2%. We've got Albury 8%, okay, averaging 8% every single year in the average 10 years. We've got Launceston, 11%, okay. Elliott Heads, which is in Bundaberg, 11.5%. Wonfaggi, which is in the Gippsland region in Melbourne, Victoria, I should say, 16%. There is a number of locations, okay, that you can see there's long, strong, sustainable growth in these suburbs here. Okay, and so people think you can only achieve sustainable growth in capital cities because that's where everyone's living, that's where the majority of the population is. But probably doesn't work like that. There's a lot of things moving it: creation of jobs, livability, lifestyle, economic drivers, infrastructure projects. This is the supply of how many houses are coming to the market, and then I guess building approvals and making sure that if there's not a large number but there's a high demand of jobs, infrastructure projects, movement of people, internal migration, okay, and government policies implementing into a region, and they can't build enough properties because they just don't have the supply. What's it going to do to the property prices? When you got as well lifestyles, people have left Melbourne, Sydney. There was 50,000 people during COVID that left Victoria. I think it was about 50 or 60,000 in Sydney. They moved. Majority moved to Queensland, but as well they moved all over Australia. A lot of them went to regional towns because they could work from home and had loved the lifestyle change. Now there's a different shift in the world of today. Okay, it doesn't mean that this just happened recently. Okay, it's always been different markets peaking and troughing at different times. Okay, if we look at from 2000 to 2008, okay. I can talk about the time from 2002 to 2008. Interest rates were at 6.3% and went to 9.5% during that period. They were going up, they were going down, they're going up, they're going down. By the time of that 6-year window, they were at 9.5. There was property markets, okay, that grew over 200%. Places like Geraldton, Townsville, Launceston, Perth was growing over 100%, okay, and the list goes on. Byron Bay, Coffs Harbour, etc. But it was funny because Melbourne and Sydney did not grow over 70% in 6 years. Now, it's quite funny, the interest rates rise. They're the two markets that got the highest median prices in Australia. And those prices, or those locations, did not move. But why did the other location move? Not because they're more affordable and they're not going to affect the people purchasing property because interest rates, if they go up 1, 2, 3% in those locations, the median house price is low. It's not because of that. It's because of what was happening in those markets from an economic point of view, okay? Like what I've spoken about. So there's always going to be strong sustainable growth in different markets, okay? Of course, you're making sure you do the right DD. Not every market's treated equally, okay? So it's understanding what regional towns. If you're going to a rural or small regional town that doesn't have that infrastructure, doesn't have the economic drivers, then maybe you got to reconsider what you're thinking about. Places like Horsham in Victoria. People come to me and say, Horsham, would that be a great place? It's a regional town, but it doesn't have that demand, doesn't have the lifestyle and the demand like Ballarat or Bendigo or Mildura or, Wonfaggi. So there's all different types. There's all things you got to look at and understanding from a point of view. Okay, population growth is not going to consider you massive capital growth in a market. Okay, it's internal migration, and sometimes some of the best markets in Australia, the population does not grow. It might have a slight positive growth, but nothing significant. Okay, but there's a lot of other things that happen in that market that can cause those property prices to inflate. Okay, so hopefully you got some value from this and understanding this. I would like to even give you guys a little bit more, so give me 1 second. So look, here are some other markets that are across Australia that are in regional towns that have been outperforming the 6.8% capital growth, and I just wanted to give you even guys more of clarity on other locations. So look, we've got Traralgon. Traralgon's Gippsland area of Victoria, about 3 hours away from Melbourne. It's 9%. Every single year, 9% of the last 10 years, it's averaging. Coffs Harbour, 11%, okay? Gympie, if you know where Gympie is, just above Sunshine Coast in Queensland, 480k median house price, 12% every single year. Orange, great market in New South Wales, been performing. If you know where Orange is, have a look where Orange is on the map in New South Wales. It's pretty much in the middle, smack bang in the middle of New South Wales. People go, who wants to live there? What is possibly there that people want to move there for? But there's things happening there. 13%. Okay, Devonport. Okay, Tasmania. 13% as well every single year. As you can see, affordable markets here. Okay, you compare this to your big, medium, your $1 million, $2 million, $3 million locations that are close to the CBDs that everyone says they're going to get capital growth, and that's where you can only get it. How come these markets are outperforming it in the last 10 years? Okay, 10 years, in the last 10 years, Sydney and Melbourne were outperforming, apparently the whole country. But I'm just showing you evidence here that that's not the case. And I think it's understanding data points, okay? Now, hopefully you got some value from this, okay? Normally we don't really talk about this sort of things. I'm not here to say you should be buying in a regional town. It just depends, circumstances, the timing of when you're buying, depending on what sort of purchase price you're going in, tailored to your goal, okay? Now, we do purchase in capital cities. At the moment, we are purchasing capital cities, okay? But it's not Melbourne and Sydney. I can put my hand on heart and say we're not achieving or we're not purchasing in these capital cities because I will not put my money there at this point in time. So have a look around Australia. There's multitude of locations where you can invest in. Okay, hopefully that gives you a bit of clarity, a bit of confidence, and understanding property markets. Okay, as you can see, there are regional towns, the big regional towns, not small regional towns. But so I think if you understand property fundamentals, you'll be fine when you do make an informed decision. Now, if you're struggling to make a decision, you're not sure, you're procrastinating, you don't know where to invest, please, guys, reach out to us at the team. We can guide you, point you in the right direction. If you don't want to work for us, that's completely fine. Be transparent. And if you need some advice, you want some help, you want us to point you in the right direction, we can have a chat and go from there, guys. All right. Make sure you do the right due diligence, because when you invest in property, it's very hard to turn back and undo those mistakes. It's not like stocks, okay? There's a long process of selling a property, there's fees involved, and if you make the wrong mistake and the property does not grow, or if not, it goes the opposite way in growth, and you then want to sell the property, but you can't because it's not going to cover the mortgage, just keep in mind that that's going to be a bit of a detrimental to your financial situation. Okay, guys, thank you for watching this video. Please like this video if you got value from it. Share this video, comment on this video, talk about what you want, what else you want to learn about, and we'll actually put more posts out there and create more video content for you guys. Okay, thank you guys, have a lovely weekend, and we'll see you next week.